Hello, my friends. AmyR here with Prairie Paper and Ink. Welcome back to the face and the card making space and some Halloween cards. Pretty Pink Posh August release. Once you see it, if you haven't already, you'll understand. Whole thing is Halloween, and it's awesome. I love it. Cuteness overload, really. I will have a link to the release because I barely touched on all the amazing products. I will have other videos coming using this new release. For today's cards, we're going to do some little wobbly ghosts with some action wobbles. I got like layering stencils, distress spritz, all the things. Like always, links to everything I used will also be in the description box below the video. My links are affiliate links. That just means that if you click on one of my links, end up placing an order, I get a little kickback from that at no extra cost to you. What helps pay the bills, keeps the channel going. And this is also part of a hop for this release. I will have a link to my blog. As always, it's a direct link, so you don't have to like search around or anything like that. I'll have that below because there will be tons of inspiration, definitely worth checking out. So all the info, as always, in the description box below. And let's get into making these cards. So I started with my backgrounds, and I've got 2 panels of purple cardstock. I don't have a link for this cardstock. This was like Spellbinders Lilac, I think. Not sure what they're doing with their cardstocks, but purple cardstock. And right now it's A2 sized, and that's what I'm going to keep it as. And I'm going to do a very simple, like kind of halo of ink around these panels. And I started with Wilted Violet Distress Ink and using a blending brush. And this blend doesn't look very nice. Doesn't matter. One, when you're blending on color cardstock, things are always going to look different. If you're aiming for a very smooth blend, let it dry and then reassess, because most of the time, it legit doesn't matter on color cardstock. It just, once the ink actually dries, it looks fine. But I legit don't care because I'm going to be adding so many other things on top of this. I just wanted the color. So I'd used Wilted Violet. I added Villainous Potion. And then I stuck these to one of my big grip mats. And then this first stencil is from an older Pretty Pink Posh set. This is the Spooky Sky stencil. It actually has like multiple layers, but I just wanted this cloud stencil. So I stuck it on top of my cardstock panels. And I'm using white pigment ink and a paper pouncer to add the ink. When it comes to pigment inks, I'm a million times prefer my pouncers versus like brushes or anything else really, because it just applies the ink the most evenly, and you're not going to get like the swirl marks that can happen from using brushes, etc. I did pick up the teensiest bit of purple ink onto the pouncer, but not enough that it bothers me, because I do keep a dedicated pouncer for just white pigment ink because it's white ink, you know. So I applied that. The background, it's getting there, you know. And then I'm using the new Scattered Bats stencil. So I stuck that on top. And over this, I am using Ranger's Black Opaque texture paste. I keep mine sealed with press and seal because this was released last Halloween. Yeah, for last year. And mine still works great. Highly recommend press and seal. I do have a link to it because Simon Says Stamp ships internationally, and I know it's hard for international people to get this stuff. It's a great way to make your paste last longer. So you can use regular like cling wrap too, but the press and seal is kind of the OG, the gold standard. So I applied the texture paste. And I also, if you want like black texture paste, this is the one I recommend highly. You can tint your own texture paste with there are different mediums like reinkers, things like that. But to get it black, it's a pain. I've done it many years ago, and it makes it it thins it out a lot. It's just not fun. And when Ranger released this, holy grail, love. So once I was done applying it, I reseal up my jar. I immediately clean off my stencil, my grip mat, everything, and we're good to go. Because I'm not trimming these panels down while the paste is still wet, I just use my finger to kind of push any excess bits off the edges. You could also just let it dry and then just snip off those little bits that hang off the edge with scissors. I've done either way. It honestly doesn't matter. And then I let these backgrounds dry. I don't think they need to be dry for this step. I had other things to do. So then for the final step for these backgrounds, I put these into my splat box and I am going to spritz these with Wilted Violet Distress Spritz. So this won't add a whole lot like on camera, but it's going to give purple shimmery sparkle, which I will show at the end with my flashlight. It just gives it that little extra something. Love it. So spritz that onto both these backgrounds and then set those aside to dry. And while that was drying, which doesn't take very long because you're not like coating, like a few little sprays. I got all that little splattery, speckly bits and we're good to go. I die cut a bunch of white cardstock using 2 different ghost die sets from the new release. I used the stitched ghosts and the ghost holder, which is the big one. Love him. He's so cute. And stuck these to a grip mat. I could have used the same one that I had used earlier, but as always, I'm being extra, so whatever. But got them all stuck to a grip mat. And I'm just going to add some ink blending to these as well. And I'm using Lost Shadow and Speckled Egg Distress inks. Just cause. But because they're ghosts, you could just leave them, you know. It's just personal preference, but I just wanted to have fun with it. So added some Lost Shadow and then went in with the Speckled Egg. And then after I did that, I'm going to put this into my splat box and add more Distress Spritz. But this time I'm going to use Weathered Wood Distress Spritz, which kind of has a bit of a blue tint to it. And when you first spray it, especially on the ghost, I honestly wasn't 100% sure if I was okay with it. I was like, did I wreck these? But I know with the Weathered Wood especially, because I tend to use this one more on like white cardstocks, things like that. Just let it dry. And then I was happy with it. I liked it. And they're sparkly. And same thing, I'll show the sparkle like at the end. Super fun. But yeah, right here, I was like, do I need to redo all this? And I was like, no, I'm not redoing anything. I'm going with it. We're going with it. It's good. So with both of those die sets, the little face shapes and everything are separate. I'll get to those in a second. I had also die cut this little pumpkin piece. This is from the ghost holder die set. I die cut it from a scrap of orange cardstock and then just blended some crackling campfire distress ink onto that, just again to give it that like depth and a little bit more dimension. So blended that into place, and then that little dark piece is the stem that I had die cut from just a little tiny scrap of brown cardstock. So pop that out of the scrap of cardstock and then just adhered that to my little pumpkin. And then I'm going to set that aside. And then the faces. I die cut them separately. But I know the point of them and the way the dies are is you could just die cut them from the little ghost die cuts. And then just stick a piece of cardstock behind it. So you don't have to fiddle. But I don't know. I prefer doing it this way. It's a little more work. But I don't mind it because I have all my little tools. If I didn't have my little like reverse tweezers and, you know, embellishment wands and things like that, never in a million years. I ain't got time. These little pieces are very small, but this didn't take very long. So I had just die cut a scrap and I just stuck all the little face pieces on there. And then just showing you guys how I'm die cutting. And the first two were great. This one, I got confident and I was like, oh yeah, I can totally line this up. And I was like, maybe not. But again, it's liquid glue. Just moved everything over. He's fine. He was just being a little bit derpy for a second there. So do whatever kind of works for you. You could just use the wafer die, run it through the actual with the little ghost die cut, and then glue a piece to the back of it. I've done that with other die cuts in the past, or you could do something like this. Another option, which I didn't do, but I was like, oh, that'd be really cute, is keep the little mouth parts and then add googly eyes. That would look really cute. So many ideas, as always. So many ideas, not enough time. So another option is I just pop pieces out, grab them with my little reverse tweezers, add a teeny little dab of glue, stick it into place. Like really quite simple. So I got all my little faces on my little ghosts so that they're all ready to go. And then for the sentiments, I'm using the Halloween Corners stamp set. There's really cute little images in there, but there's also some really great sentiment. It's another, I love everything with Pretty Pink Posh. I love the images. I love the font choices, the stencils, the bling. But yeah, I love the font choices for the sentiments. They just really appeal to me. So I use scraps of black and orange cardstock, and I'd use my anti-static powder tool on that to keep the embossing powder from clinging to anything but the stamped image. And then I stamped the sentiments with clear embossing ink, coated them with some detail white embossing powder, melted that with my heat tool, and then I used my microfiber cloth to remove that excess anti-static powder. And the larger sentiment has a coordinating wafer die. That little one doesn't. You could just trim it out. I used one of my sentiment label wafer dies to die cut that one as well. So taped my dies into place with a little bit of washi tape so it didn't shift when I run it through the die cut machine. And I used another sentiment from that same Halloween Corners stamp set and inked that up with the Wilted Violet Distress ink and stamped that onto the insides of my cards. And my card bases are top folding A2 white note cards. And then these little bat die cuts are from the Ghost Holder die set. There's these 2 little bat dies, and I was like, again, perfection. So adhered those. I die cut those from scraps of black cardstock as well. Adhered them to the insides of my cards with craft tacky glue. And then my backgrounds, I'm going to adhere to the card base as well using craft tacky glue. Once I got the backgrounds adhered and let the glue dry, I can start assembling my little scenes with all of my little die cut ghosties. So got those adhered into place. And then for the ghost holder, I'm going to adhere his little pumpkin so that he's holding him. Love it. Just love it. It's so cute. So got that into place. And then to adhere him to the card, I'm going to use an action wobble. I've used these in many videos in the past, mostly usually for Halloween for whatever reason. They come in 2 sizes. This is the, original size and super simple to use. It's just basically a spring with 2 adhesive ends. And the thicker end, I adhere directly to the element that I want to bounce around. So you peel off the backing and then I firmly press that into my element. So in this case, the back of this little ghost die cut. And I press that in really, really well to make sure it's really good, really strongly adhered. If your action wobbles are old, because I had some back in the day, can't remember what year it was. It might have been last year or the year before, but I had some really old action wobbles and the adhesive does eventually start to dry up. If they're years old, that happens. But in that case, I just use a really strong adhesive like red line adhesive. I don't like using liquid adhesives with these if I can avoid it. Because you don't want to, you'll know if the adhesive isn't good anymore because you'll go to, make the image bounce around and it just falls off. So that's when you need some backup, but usually it's good to go. So then I peeled off the backing off the other side and I firmly pressed that into the card front and like kind of off camera there, I was really pressing it in because I had that texture paste. So pressed it in really good and he's good to go. And then again, I'll show at the end him bouncing around and being all adorable. And then I adhered my sentiments with some little foam squares. And then for this card, I'm using the Stitched Ghost wafer dies. And the one ghost this action wobble just fits. There are smaller ones. There's mini ones that are like less than half the size of this. I'll link to them. I didn't need them for this because this one just managed to fit. So I was good to go, but there are smaller ones. And the rest of the ghosts, I used a combination of like thin foam squares and like regular thickness foam squares so that the little ghosts are all kind of popped up at different levels. Just, they're flying through the air. So popped all those into place with all the foam squares, did the same thing with the sentiment. And then that final little ghosty, he's going to get adhered to the inside of the card because, we don't want him to be left out. So I'm going to stick him onto the inside of the card just to finish everything off. And then my last little bit of embellishment wasn't totally necessary, but I couldn't resist. These are the Pretty Pink Posh Spooky Sky Clay Confetti. Kind of meant for shakers, but these little stars, these little kind of white stars, they glow in the dark. So of course I had to add them because that's another thing I like to do during the Halloween series is use my different glow in the dark elements because it's just fun. So it's going to be difficult. I'll use my little black light to actually kind of somewhat show them sort of glowing. It's not really easy to see and it is very subtle, but it's cute. So I adhered some of those. There's some little black stars in the mix and then the little moons. So I adhered a little clay moon to each of the cards and then put the little stars here and there with my craft tacky glue. So just picking them up with my little embellishment wand, pressing them into place. And that finished them off. And now you can see them dancing around. And then the cool thing about the Action Wobbles is they lay flat. That's why I love them so much. This is my type of interactive card. It's super simple, takes like no brain effort whatsoever, and they're easy to mail. Love it. So they bounce around, presses flat, you pull it out of the envelope, it pops up, and then see, it's so cute. Love it. And they're sparkly, so I'm going to show you that too. So my little ghosties are all sparkly with the weathered wood distress spritz, and then the background has all the sparkle with the wilted violet distress spritz. And then I've got all the layers with the different stencils and the cute little sentiments, and these were a ton of fun to make, like so much fun. So I'm going to use my black light and somewhat show. It's kind of hard because because they're white cardstock, that of course is going to glow and my camera is like losing its mind. But yeah, those little stars in that spooky sky clay confetti glow, and I love it. Love it. It's so fun. So those are my cards for this video. Like I mentioned in the intro, I will have links to all the things in the description box below the video. So if you just expand the description box, I'll have a link to the release. I'll have my supply list, links to all the things along with my blog post. So you can check it all out below if you are interested. Thank you all so very much for watching, and I'll see you all very soon in the next video. Bye. Thank you so much to my amazing Patreon supporters. For anyone that might be interested in supporting me over on Patreon, the link to that is in the description box below the video. For everyone else, as always, thank you all so much for taking the time to watch my videos, for thumbs upping, commenting, subscribe if you haven't, I'd love to have you. And here's a couple other videos for you to check out in case you missed them. Bye!